October's in the shop on the 20th, listening to jingle bells on the radio, cleaning up some steering column parts, and the inner and outer tubes, the column and the inner tube, cleaned up, painted, and drying, ready to go. Some of the other stuff we went ahead and cleaned up. The actual shaft itself is clean, in good shape. Some of the other parts have been cleaned up. Some of it's been sandblasted, and we're gonna paint a little bit on some of this other stuff when we get to it. All right, Jeff Lindsay out in the garage with you on the 21st. Cleaning parts. All we've been doing is cleaning. And I know this is not very exciting, but it's part of the video that we're making on restoring this steering column. All of these parts have been cleaned as spotless as I can get them. I mean, I've got a good degreaser, and the pin that goes in this spring, this spring was just covered, matted in grease. And I mean, you look at it now and you wouldn't ever know it. All right, Tools, Jeff Lindsay in the shop. Going to bring you along for a little bit of the assembly of this column. The first thing is put that little expansion washer in this backing plate. That backing plate is for this hub right here. It slides on, 4 bolts go through. Put this on before you run that inner tube shaft up in there. It makes it a lot easier. Once you get that washer and that backing plate, just take your tube, run up through the column, and then you're just going to need to center these pieces and let that column come right up through there, and I'll show you. And remember that this piece and this hub are keyed over here on this right side, and this shaft is going to have to come on in about a 1/2 inch so that this washer and this little keeper can go on that. The tip end of that inner tube is slotted to receive this, so we'll get that put on there and we'll bring you back. Again, this has got to come out toward me another 1/2 inch or so. We'll press it on through, put those pieces on, and show you a shot of that. The little expansion washer behind this backing plate, it does offer some resistance. Maybe you can see the slot in the shaft. There's a like slot on the opposite side for that little key, that little clamp, whatever you want to call it, keeper. Like I say, that offers a little resistance. So what I did was just put a clamp on the inner tube piece that comes out, and this, snug that up. That gives you enough room to put that little keeper in there. And that's definitely a two-hand job, but I'll see if I can slide the washer on, show you that. And then put this piece on top of that, and that pretty much secures everything. That'll hold it all in place. Nothing so far is greased in this that I could tell. So when I put the shaft on the inside, I will definitely grease it, as well as I went ahead and packed the bearings, and I just used a multi-purpose grease, nothing special. I didn't have any lithium. I think this is probably as good as the other. All the videos that I watched, that's pretty much what they use, just a multi-purpose grease. So we'll get that clip put on there and we'll bring you back when we have a little progress. All right, the clip is on the shaft, stretched on there, and then that, just push it back, and maybe you'll be able to hear it pop into the slots. Let's see if we can do this and maybe get a shot of it. There we go. Snaps right in, bottom and top. So that's going to secure that shaft in there from the top side. And then we'll come around, take that off, You can go ahead and put this piece in and run the shaft down through it, or you can wait till the shaft is in. I don't think it matters either way, but that just fits on there like so. And then this keeper just snaps into place like that. That holds that. There is a replacement for this that's actually got a bearing. This has just got the rubber seals. So I'm gonna go back with this one. It doesn't seem to be hurt at all. So that pretty much takes care of the inner column, inner tube, shaft housing, whatever you want to call it, but that pretty much takes care of that being installed. And that's probably one of the easier things to do. Just remember, when you go to take one of these apart, if you do, tap this shaft out, and then this backing plate and all comes off really easy, and this hub will come off. But without that shaft being tapped back through, you're not going to get that piece off right there. All right, we'll bring you back. And if you're like me and you forget to put this sleeve on down here, you get to take it back apart and take this hub off and all that stuff and do it again. So all right, we're going to do that right quick and we'll bring you back. All right, we're back to where we left off with the hub going on. I did grease where those rack gears will go. And don't forget that this thing is slotted so that it slides on this. There's a slotted side right here that will receive that right there. All right, once that piece is slid on, it's just the 4 bolts, and we'll stick those through. And they're catching into that little backing plate. And if y'all have ever done this, I mean, you know exactly what all this is. But this is my first one, and this is a restoration of the steering column, so to speak. It looks a whole lot better than it did. And, you know, all the old grease is out. We've pretty much just verified that the parts that are going back in are good. Nothing's busted, cracked, stove up. It's all working good. So, we'll bring you along as we tighten things down and add things to it. All right, we took the ignition rod, the mechanical rod, to the switch, slid it up into place. We're going to grease it right here. And we'll put this piece on, slide this hub over that, and then I believe we can pin it. Once we get the hub with the rack gears on there, I believe we can pin it and go ahead and put the tension spring in and the little ignition linkage here that goes here. I believe we can do all that kind of at one time, and then the little spring. It's a little bit aggravating, but not too bad. I've did it a couple of times, so we'll get it and we'll bring you back. All right, once you get to this point, tilt the column up and slide this right side pin in. For some reason it does better. And then I bring it back down and the left one goes in pretty easy. Once you get it to this point, it's actually a moving, working deal. So the only thing to be mindful of is that you don't have anything putting pressure on this outer bearing yet. So it will try to sneak off there if you wiggle it around too much. The next thing is just to reassemble the ignition gear, is what I call it. Again, I don't know the names of all this stuff. Or you can put the tension spring in, either way. I'm going to leave it out for now till I get this done. That way there won't be any pressure trying to... What that spring does is it puts pressure on that column so that whenever you hit this, like if you're sitting in the car and you hit this, that steering wheel comes up by itself. That's all that spring is. So coming together, won't be long now. We'll bring you back. The best thing I can tell you about about this gear and this spring that's held in place with this, the best thing I can tell you is just remember how you took it off. This piece is going to slide in from the opposite side, and it's going to connect, and you see it push that grease out right there. Probably snug that in good. That'll actually work. That's actually what works the ignition switch down there. So grease it up good so it slides easily. This spring right here, when you turn the key back, this spring kicks this rod out right here. And that rod right there is what goes in all these slots at whatever position and locks that steering wheel. All right, Tubers, this outer hub, just 3 screws screwing in there. Make sure you line up your lockout pin or it won't go on. Snap your column cover back into place around this part of the hub. And that's about as far as we can go. I could put the rest of it on, but I'd have to take it off when the blinker assembly comes and the ignition. So all that's pretty easy to deal with. The rest of it, the inner workings of it, is what I was interested in mainly, trying to get it all restored. The ignition switch, no telling how old that is. I probably need to put a new one on there. But it just pops into that hole in that little black piece, the rod. I don't know, I think it seemed like maybe I showed that one time before. But it just slides down into that slot and bolts back to the column. And that linkage rod that runs up here and connects to all this stuff is what engages. It's just like throwing a light switch. So the other thing is this piece. I'm not sure what this is. I need to read my manual. I did find this piece of a wiring harness, which we would definitely won't use, but obviously there's some stuff missing. But that's kind of what's left. The bracket I have not put back on yet. There's no need to put it on just yet. And then the steering wheel, this part, this goes over that bearing, the lock, spring, and steering wheel. That's all that's left to put back together. So, well, that tension spring too, but that's pretty easy to do. We can pop that cover back off and slide it in there, no problem. It's just got 2 little ears on that piece. You push it down and turn it, and it locks it in place. So that's kind of the column in a nutshell, the inner workings of this particular column. There's no telling how many different ones. I have yet to see one just like this one anywhere online. A lot of the GM earlier columns are similar to this, but they seem to have some differences. And as you get into the 80s, you know, the dimmer switch being up here and all that, you get into all that. This is definitely one of the earlier ones. Without that, the dimmer switch button and all was in the floor still. So again, this is not a how-to video. This is just me doing a video, doing a column restoration or rebuild or repair, whatever you want to call it. But we got it back together. I'm hoping this is going to be a good column. We'll get the rest of our parts in, and we'll show you the final deal in some pictures or something, maybe as we're working on something else. All right, Merry Christmas everybody, and we'll do it some more.